Large audience here. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time today, and I appreciate everybody's patience over the last couple weeks since my appointment. Obviously, we've had quite a bit happening. Let the dust settle a little bit, but we had the monitors in town last week that we prepared for, had a successful site visit, at least in my opinion. So thank you for holding off a little bit for this press conference. Wanted to start off again with gratitude to the Board of Supervisors, Chairman Sellers, who's in the audience here today. Their support and vote of confidence has given me the opportunity to take on this position and this role, and also to the employees and the community, the outpouring of support and just encouragement to continue to drive the efforts forward for the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. So I do want to thank everybody for that, my executive team as well, and continue the path forward. Again, I expressed in my earlier conference after the appointment my commitment to driving the agency initiatives forward relative to reforms, relative to the court order and other programs that are out there, engagement with the community, and continued support of our staff members and the different classifications serving public safety. Wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of my initiatives personally that I'd like to look forward to and work with my staff on is to work internally with the county and state leadership for retention and recruitment efforts. Maricopa County Sheriff's Office is not alone in this, in this challenge of making sure that we have staff members that serve our community in the roles that we need. We all need public safety to be at our beck and call. We all need public safety to respond to incidents. We need people to run our jail systems. We need people to support our courts. Everything the Sheriff's Office does, we need qualified staff members to be able to do that. So I'm committed to continuing to work with county leadership, state leadership, and internal measures to look what we can do to afford that and obviously extend that to our staff. Our staff is our number one resource, and I really applaud them, just as we're talking here, day in, day out, 24/7. Even on the holidays, they're out there doing the job and making sure that our communities are safe and secure. So I want to drive that mission and make sure that we keep people on the street and people in our jails to make sure that they're taking care of the services that are needed. Increased programs to address health and wellness internally and in the field and in our jail system. One of the things that I'm asking the board for is hopefully the expansion of our co-responder program. Obviously, we deal with a lot of incidents for calls for service relative to people suffering mental illness issues, health issues, addiction issues. We want to be able to disseminate from our dispatch all the way to having people respond out in the field to address those issues, hopefully non-law enforcement contact, bring down use of force issues, and get the people the services that are much needed, connect them with community members, connect them with mental health wellness programs, and even to the point where at least we have some resources to be able to connect them with. So that's one of the driving factors in reference to that. The other side of that, too, is in our internal health and wellness. We want to bolster what Sheriff Penzone initiated and continue to grow that program. As we know, our public safety individuals deal with a lot of stressful situations, an environment that a lot of times we need to make sure that they're viable and ready to be able to assist the community needs. So we continue to expand that program, and I'm committed to working with that. We also have the custody team that's working on a program to monitor the health and wellness of our inmate population. We're hoping to roll that out later this year, but as you know, a lot of times people that come into our jail systems may be suffering from some medical issues, addiction issues, and we're looking at a program to hopefully be able to better monitor that in coordination with correctional health services to hopefully mitigate issues that they have if they have a medical emergency, to be able to be informed and be able to respond appropriately. We also want to increase community partnership, participation, and transparency. Currently, we're in the process of getting a new CAD RMS system, records management system, and computer-aided dispatch system that will provide better record keeping for our agency. Ours is getting to the point where it's a little antiquated. We're still utilizing it, but we need to move into the future. The county board and finance was kind enough last fiscal period to grant us the funds to be able to seek that procurement. We're working on that as we speak to hopefully have that system in place here relatively soon. That will provide better transparency. We're also looking for interfaces for the public. Right now, you have to call a deputy sheriff to come take a report, or sometimes we can take it over the phone. We want to be able to provide a plug-in interface that our community, if it's a low-level report, that they just need to make a report to law enforcement or information to law enforcement, that they would have a portal to be able to do that. So we're enhancing that so that those resources where police need to respond to or deputy sheriffs need to respond to, they would be freed up from some of those instances. We're also looking at school programs, community advisory boards. One of the things back in the day, I was a DARE officer back in the early 90s, kind of went away. We tried a couple other programs. We're looking to get back into that business a little bit, again, as resources allocate, but the DARE program is back up and running, really kind of geared towards 5th and 6th graders. We're sending some people to get that training and hope to be able to get that out to our schools that we serve. Also working with the schools on safety initiatives. Some of the legislation that was passed last year is school safety programs, and we are getting that off the ground and moving forward as we through the procurement cycle, and staff to be dedicated to that and work with our schools and hopefully grow that out for our schools and providing additional safety. We work a lot with First Place, Arizona, which identifies they deal with autism. We're looking at programs as we hopefully respond to either residents, or we make a traffic stop, or even come up on a vehicle where there's some notification that maybe somebody in that vehicle or that house has autism, and we know through our training that we need to be aware of that and how to be able to respond to that. So we're working with them on a bunch of different programs and initiatives to provide that training so that we can deal with a multitude of scenarios that we might be faced with. Some of the other programs obviously are committed to public education and safety. It's no secret that Maricopa County's grown quite a bit. Obviously, with the traffic congestion that we see, more cars on the road, more people in the street. We continue to work with Arizona Governor's Office of Highway Safety through grant programs and doing traffic enforcement as well as traffic education. Some of you may went out to the Waste Management Open. We partnered with Scottsdale PD to do some of the Know Your Limit campaigns and some of the other educational features with that, so that hopefully we can keep intoxicated drivers off the road, but also enforce where needed. And also working with the Arizona Game and Fish Department through grant opportunities for watercraft safety and prevention. There's also some legislation reference to educational programs. Right now, as it is in the state of Arizona, you can hand almost anybody a set of keys to a boat, a watercraft of some sort, and they can go on the lake. Well, we're looking to at least improve that from an educational perspective to make our waterways safer. Arizona gets hot, and it's kind of funny, most people don't realize there's a lot of registered watercraft in Maricopa County, and those recreational areas are utilized quite frequently. So we want to make it a safer environment for everybody. We have a robust community outreach team and an enforcement support division. We participate in several internal and external initiatives to collaborate and interface with the community. We want to continue growing those programs, even with our volunteer services. I do want to give a shout out to the posse, the volunteers that are organized within our agency. I want to grow that program. There's no better way to interface with law enforcement than through volunteerism. So as we continue to work on those measures to hopefully bolster those numbers, they do a lot, especially with search and rescue, medical emergency services out of our recreation areas, and help support some of our enforcement efforts, not necessarily from an enforcement perspective, but doing some of the roles like a jail transport type scenario, or sitting on a traffic collision, sitting on a tow truck. Those men and women out there, a lot of them have 9-to-5 jobs, but then they come out on the weekends and help us out and support us. So we want to continue to grow that program and help us serve that community. And it's a better way, too, for people to know the sheriff's office and what law enforcement's all about. We have a cadet program. We're looking at obviously continuing that and expanding that, and that is our youth that might be interested in law enforcement, certainly giving them exposure and training to be able to respond to that and hopefully seek a career in law enforcement, because we really want to encourage the future of law enforcement growth, and not just for the sheriff's office, but for the law enforcement community and the community that we serve. Compliance efforts. I know this has been a big thing going back over 10 years ago. As I started out, the monitor was here last week for the visit. I believe we had a lot of good communication. I've got very good understanding of the court order. Some of you may or may not know, and 2013, October to be specific, I was transferred to the compliance unit of the sheriff's office, and we started implementing the court order. I've been very familiar. I know the order fairly well with all orders and all ramifications relative to it. And I'm committed to making sure that we continue to move the needle forward with the requirements of that court order. Generally, all of the requirements have been put into policy in place. In fact, in the first two court orders, we are actually 100% compliant, or believed to be 100% compliant in phase one, which is getting those initiatives out, the policy, the training. We're still working on phase two, which we're in the low 90 percentile. And we want to make sure that's actually the fact that we're out there doing the job, doing what's required, making sure that everybody's following the measures relative to that reform. We are on track to continue to make progress with that, and I'm committed to making sure that we do that with the open communications relative to the parties, the monitor, and our community advisory board. Hopefully we can continue to move that needle as we go forward with it. And then the big thing that's on everybody's mind for 2024, elections. Obviously, we've already started the presidential preferential election cycle. The Sheriff's Office, in partnership with the Board of Supervisors and our other law enforcement partners and county partners, meet on a regular basis to continue to prepare for that, deliver the needed safety and security for that process to continue throughout 2024. All the way through the general election and the counting of those ballots. I believe we have a good team, good communication going, and we will continue those efforts to make sure that it is a safe and secure environment for everybody. We have a lot of volunteers throughout the county that come and work at those elections, and I encourage the community members to certainly help support that, and if they're looking to volunteer, get with the elections department. But we are here to provide that security and make sure that we have a good, safe, and secure election campaign. And then I also want to make an announcement and reference my executive team. A lot of things are going to stay in place. I'm hoping that we have an interim chief deputy, which is Chief Stephanie Molina. I'm looking forward to her hopefully being appointed by the board, or at least confirmed and approved by the board. They meet tomorrow. And she has over 30 years of experience with the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. She worked in investigations, spent quite a bit of time in the compliance area, PSB, and I feel she's a very good fit. She interfaces with the community quite a bit, and a good representative of the Sheriff's Office, highly respected leadership, and we look forward to her taking on that role. Unfortunately, she couldn't be with us today. She's at an IACP conference in California, but at some point I hope to get her in front of the camera as well to share this position. And again, I just want to throw out there that I'm very humbled and honored to take on this role. As I said again in my appointment, this agency means a lot to me. I've spent 34 years with this agency, almost 34 years with this agency. Second generation, I care about this agency. I want to see our agency continue to excel, but I also want to see our community continue to be proud of Maricopa County Sheriff's Office and continue to interface with the Sheriff's Office. We want to continue to build the programs. We are your public safety. We are the ones that provide that safety and security in the jail systems. We are those ones that provide those search and rescue missions. The one thing about the Sheriff's Office, it's very diverse, it's very reflective of the community. It also provides those services in very facets of anything from SWAT to Lake Patrol to aviation to your regular patrol deputies. Our jail system, we have 5 large jails, see about 7,000 inmates on a daily basis that we provide all services to, and roughly over 85,000 people in Maricopa County from the various agencies come through the jail system that are booked in there. We care about that. We want to connect them with the services that are needed and be proud of the public safety and continue to serve. So I've said a lot today, and I know you have some important questions probably for me, so I will turn it over to the questions. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Sheriff, talking about elections, in the past there have been some issues when we talk about ballot box watchers. There's been some discussion about how to handle those as far as what they're allowed to do, how law enforcement can step in if there are folks who are around ballot boxes. How are you going to address that, or is there a plan yet?
No, and that's good. In the last cycle, we did see that, and you did see Sheriff's Office actually involved in that. Obviously, we have to be attentive to the laws and restrictions relative to election laws, which usually is over and above what the normal patrol deputy or law enforcement officer experience. We have provided them guidance, we've provided them training to be able to deal with that, and we also look for the educational component when our deputies respond out there or other law enforcement entities, because not all of them are within our jurisdiction per se as an immediate responder. We ensure that we take time to educate the public that may be violating those laws, and if so, we will take the necessary enforcement action if they refuse to do so. But we continue with that security effort in the front, making sure that we're visible. Now, again, we can't sit there as uniformed officers and sit right over a ballot box, but we make sure that we have a deployment of team with partnership of the other law enforcement agencies that are dispersed around the valley to be able to respond to calls for service or incidents where they believe that. The elections side, they have people that are also involved in that, and basically we provide communication to us, to the other law enforcement agencies. We do we set up an EOR, and that communication comes across, and we make sure that we respond to it appropriately. So.
Yeah, along those same lines, how will you handle the situation, much like 2020, when you had a bunch of protesters descending on the elections office? How will you manage that?
Well, and I think you can already see the difference in the previous election. In fact, if you go by McTech right now, we do have some security measures already in place, even for this smaller election that's occurring right now. We will have personnel out there. We will have infrastructure to make sure that it is safe and secure, and work with our partners out there in the county and the other city jurisdictions to make sure we're present and we're able to react if needed.
Or escorts of election workers, is that going to be part of your plan too?
So we continue to have those conversations. Again, there's secured parking. We're working on other measures relative to that, working tightly with the elections department to make sure those are taken care of. Sir, back.
Melindres has been a very large challenge for this office, and I know that you've been deeply involved in the compliance efforts. The last two sheriffs have been held in contempt, in civil contempt, for what they did in that case. Do you have any trepidations about that? Because you could be walking the plank too.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the things. I can't speak to the other two sheriffs. I mean, obviously, it's a complex process. I think if anybody covered the community meeting, even the monitor said, this is a complex process and order. We don't have a consent decree. We have a court order. Federal judge has ordered these reforms on this agency. I've got the institutional knowledge of working in it since 2013 with a court order, and committed to making sure that hopefully I don't be found in contempt, and hopefully have the communication to be able to move forward. I can't project the future, but at least I will keep the open communication to ensure the agency moves forward. Because at the end of the day, I can leave here, whether it be in 9 months or the next cycle, it's the 3,000 plus men and women out there that do this job that have to make sure those reforms are continuing on. We want to make sure the agency continues forward with those reforms in progress. So I'm at least committed to making sure that we work through this and that we at least achieve what's needed to be done here. So, yes, ma'am.
Sheriff Melissa Iglesias with ABC15. 2 questions about the hit and run that killed Lisa Mancuso over the weekend. First of all, there was video, witnesses. How close are you to making an arrest?
Yes, first I want to send my condolences out to the Mancuso family. A very tragic incident. These investigations are complex. I know a lot of times a crime will occur and everybody's looking for when's that arrest going to be made. I think we see it in the East Valley right now. What everybody needs to understand is we want to make sure we get enough evidence, we process that evidence and work with the county attorney to have a conviction. It's not about the arrest, it's about the conviction. I can tell you that, especially with a hit and run type accident, it's even more complex than a regular traffic collision where everything's on scene. We have multiple locations. And with vehicles nowadays, cell phones, there's electronic and digital evidence that we have to process. We are working with the county attorney's office. I will say that we will probably have an arrest sometime in the near future.
Question about this. We know that the vehicle was registered to a member of law enforcement. Has that person been cooperative?
As far as I've been told, yes. Anybody on the, okay. You're all over here. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Graham Resnick with 12 News.
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Very good to meet you, sir.
Going back to elections, so since 2022, there have been several people found guilty of death threats against county officials, county workers. How have you changed, what are you doing in that area, monitoring threats against either county elected officials or employees over the next several months?
Yes, and we have a very robust communication and intelligence section that's not just with the sheriff's office, it's even up to the federal level within the state that we correspond. And it isn't, obviously we take all these threats seriously. We continue to monitor that intelligence as well as work with our electeds out there and make sure that if there is anything that they become aware of or they're threatened, it gets immediately over to law enforcement for us to start action on and start to investigate. We will continue to hold that to one of the highest levels. They should not be receiving threats. These people are trying to do, serve the public in this measure and make sure that this process gets taken care of. And anybody threatened, we will make sure from a law enforcement perspective, we will hold them accountable for it and investigate thoroughly.
What's your assessment of the threat environment? How dangerous, scary is it out there right now?
Well, I will say that in my career in law enforcement, I don't think I've seen so much, especially with electronic correspondence. Now, we always have to vet out, are they going to take action on it? And this goes through any threat to a school threat, elected official, a politician's threat. We have to assess each and every incident. Each one is very diverse and complex, and we make sure that we follow it through. And if there's elements of a crime that occurred, we will, or that they broke the threshold of a crime being occurred, of a threat, we will make sure and act upon that. And sometimes those are out of state, and we've had outside partnership cooperation and collaboration with that to make sure we bring them to justice, as you've seen with some of those cases. Sergio.
Hey, Sheriff Jimmy Jenkins over for the Arizona Republic. Like you said, you have accomplished a significant amount of compliance with Melendrez. There's sticking points, obviously, but you have done a lot of what was asked of your department, and you were, like you said, a big part of that. Do you feel like those things have made the department a better place?
Yeah, obviously, progressive law enforcement, a lot of it has been reformed. I don't think there's a law enforcement agency across this nation that hasn't had to be a little more progressive. A lot of times that comes with money, right? A lot of times we couldn't get the budget or the money that was needed relative to that. Body cameras, let's just throw that out there. I think a lot of times law enforcement was somewhat resistant to body cameras at first, and now they've embraced that. And it's provided us evidence, it's provided us better cases for prosecution. So I think it's technology that's moved us forward, policy reform that's moved us forward. So are we more progressive as an agency? Do we have more oversight, even internally, and accountability? Absolutely. Is there extra work to be done? And does it take a little bit extra time on those supervisors' shoulders? We need to find that balance, because that's what I guess hopefully we can get to at some point, is making sure we're self-sufficient and self-sustaining so that we can continue the measures that do work and that continue to work, but also make sure that we're balancing those enforcement efforts, those detention services efforts. We need to find that balance and strike it, and we're hoping to get down that road.
And you said you felt like you had good communications with the monitor you met with recently.
Yes, that is correct. In fact, again, I was one of the ones before the monitor was even over the sheriff's office, one of the ones put in the court implementation division and introduced them to the agency. We may not see eye to eye on certain things, but at the end of the day, we need to maintain professional communications and not be fractured about it. So I will make sure that I'm committed to having those open communications with those parties involved and the monitor and the community advisory board, and as well as the judge as needed.
My last question on that from my colleagues is that Sheriff Penzone was quite critical of the process and somewhat combative in his assessment of. So my question to you is, do you have faith in the idea that the whole purpose here is to make the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office a better place? Like, that's the purpose of the Melendrez settlement and the court orders. Like, do you agree with that? Do you have faith in the process?
Just taking over those roles, but also knowing the history. I hope to know what works and at least give it my effort going forward. I hope I'm successful.
Can I get a yes or a no? Like, do you have faith in the process?
I have faith in the process that we need to move forward and be reformed, yes.
So you can't say yes or no to my question?
I mean, I guess I'm to the point where, I'm saying yes, that we needed to be progressive. There are some areas within the order that I hope we can move forward on and also make sure that we find balance on, strike balance on. So are there things in the order that we still need to work through? Every time we have a site visit, the monitors come, we discuss process, We discuss progress. We discuss maybe areas of refinement too, with the parties involved in that. So I will say that's an evolving process. I can't say, hey, everything that's there is 100% going to work for the agency, because until we know, until we vet it, we just started our quarterly report, our monthly reports, quarterly or monthly reports with the traffic stop data. We're still working through some of that. We have the paragraph 70 constitutional policing plan. There are things that we're evolving with that, with the parties and the monitor involved, and I think we all agree that we need to massage some of that out. So by letter of black and white, I don't want to say yes, because there are things that we refine, we may revise. As long as we meet the spirit of what is being said in there, we will continue to do that, yes.
Are you?
Go ahead.
I guess
I'll get you next.
Now that you're in the position as sheriff, is there anything that you've noticed or seen that you think maybe we shouldn't be doing, that you want to do differently, or some policy or program that, yeah, this isn't the way to go? I mean, is there anything that's come up that you think needs an immediate change?
No, and again, I'm coming from the position of number 2 with the office. I worked for Sheriff Penzone for the last 7 years in executive command. There's nothing that's sticking out we need to change. We need to rip away this policy. We continue to analyze and review policy at least on an annual basis. We look at our programs. I think some of the things I'm looking at is just creative staffing structure and schedules. And that's to no fault of anybody. It's law enforcement right now. It's even in the private sector. We have to make sure we have enough staffing to be able to get the job done, the task accomplished. So I continue to call on my leadership team to also bring things to me. Have there been a couple things that we're looking at? I talked about a little bit in the initiatives here. We want to grow those programs. We want to continually look at how we're interfacing with the community. And are there things we can change? Potentially, but not right now. I don't think anything's broken or needs to be fixed. So, yes, ma'am.
Interested in running for the office?
That's a great question. I guess I can officially say I put my papers in last Monday as a letter of intent to do so, and organization this week. So and let me backstep a little bit. When I found out Sheriff Penzone was leaving, I said, I could probably retire, stick around another year. When I received that notification, I got a lot of support from internal staff members. It's been a long time since a Maricopa County deputy sheriff or any employee from Maricopa County sat in front of anybody to say, I'm the sheriff of Maricopa County. I look at that as a huge honor and opportunity, because I care about the people in this organization and I care about the community. And I reflected back on it and thought, if I don't do it, I'm going to regret it. So I guess I can officially say, yes, I am. But it all depends on signatures and what the community wants and what the public wants. So I'm committed to at least keeping up this side of the bargain. If there's enough support out there, I'll continue forward. I'll get you first.
Okay. One other question about Mancuso, hit and run. The agency that's the supervisor of this particular law enforcement officer who owns vehicles address all questions to you. So I guess our question is, did that law enforcement officer fully report the crime to you guys? Did you do an interview with him? And have you talked to the suspected driver of the vehicle, and have they done an interview with you?
Well, that's a lot of questions all rolled into one. I can say that.
Owner of the vehicle.
I will say that the owner of the vehicle did come forward. We were also working angles of information. I want to stop right there for a second and just thank the witnesses and the community for providing us a lot of information that helped with our investigation. I think the paths kind of crossed at the same time when the employee was aware, fully cooperative with it at that point in time. I believe, and I can't say for a fact, there was at least some conversation. But I can refer you to our media team for the nuances. I'll just say that we have enough now at this point that we're, again, working with the county attorney, and bringing that person to justice is our number one concern in getting that prosecution. But everything so far is indicating that, yes, everything's working that direction.
Have your investigators interviewed the suspected driver?
I believe so. I can't speak for a fact. As far as I know, yes, because, I think everything's coming to a culmination at this point.
But the law enforcement officer who owned the vehicle did come forward and review?
Yes.
Hi, Bowen Overstoles, KTR News. For
sir.
clarity's sake on your intention to run, would that be as a Democrat or Republican?
That is a Democrat. I figure, and again, glad the questions are being asked. I think there was some criticism up front. This is not a political job, at least in my eyes. Yes, I was a registered Republican the day after Penzone announced that he was not seeking re-election and that he was leaving the agency early. You know, I said I could have left, but I decided that I would stick with the agency and at least meet the qualifications. And the voters elected a Democrat. The voters want a Democrat to finish out his term. That's what I'm doing. And I will continue down that path. To me, RD, blue, red, I'm here to be qualified as a law enforcement professional and hopefully lead this agency in the right direction. Doesn't matter what political party I'm from or what I'm affiliated with. I'm not looking to drive initiatives on the political side. We see where that gets us. I'm a person from the heart that's been a law enforcement officer, a deputy sheriff for 34 years, carrying second generation. I'm only in it for hopefully continuing forward for 4 more years to keep this agency headed the direction that it needs to be. And I think that's what the people want, at least within the agency, and they believe in that. That's where I'm at with it. So, but thanks.
Got a question over here.
Yes, sir.
Rick, Fox 10 News.
Yes, sir.
Just get all the cameras here. Give us your spiel for anybody that wants to be recruited, that you want to bring in to the Sheriff's Department as a recruit. Just, what would you say to someone?
I would say that, you know, again, looking back after 34 years, starting as a patrol deputy with this office, who would ever thought I could be sheriff? And looking out there to inspire people that want to get into public safety, telling them it's possible. It's a very rewarding career. One of the things I was able to do, and, you know, obviously the day of the appointment, is reflect back and think, Sheriff, that's an elected position. How's that even possible? But I will tell you that I work with a lot of chiefs of police out there, have great collaborations with other sheriffs out there in the community, that you look back as a self-rewarding career because you meet a lot of people and hopefully it inspires you to continue to provide that service out there. And so I just say to the men and women out there that are interested in a career of law enforcement, don't let anything hold you back. Be part of your community. Make the change. You know, someday we all have to worry about who's patrolling our neighborhood, right? You can make a good career out of it. It's been very rewarding for me, and maybe I'm the anomaly, but I will tell you that I look around the men and women in this agency, and they're excited to come to work. They care about their job. They care about the community issues. They care about making the difference every day. So I would ask that those out there looking for a career, a rewarding career, a fun career, we have diversity with different areas within the office. You can be an investigator. You can be working in our MASH facility. You can be working in our MHU facility, dealing with mental health in our inmates. We have dispatchers. I mean, they're the plug-in interface with the community. The other thing is, too, you're in government. You have a solid benefit package. There's a lot of people getting laid off right now. One of the reasons that drove me to this, obviously, was the inspiration from my father, who told me not to be a deputy, believe it or not, back in the day, but was very proud of me. But secondly is the benefits, being in law enforcement. You have a retirement age, you have pension, you have benefits, and you have a caring community out there that I think continues to inspire you. So I ask that it's time for people to step up and do this job, please.
I had a follow-up on the running for re-election question. You know, I can understand, you know, to you it doesn't really, you know, make a difference on how you perform as sheriff, but, you know, do you feel that, you know, decision to run as a Democrat leaves you off in a better position to, you know, win election? Did that factor in at all?
No, you know, obviously I don't understand the strategy. Heck, I don't even know how to run a campaign, to be honest with you. So I'm getting into this very late in the game. I have about 30 days to collect enough signatures. I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do, or at least I feel it's the right thing to do. And people around me keep telling me and encouraging me they would like to see me do this. There's no strategy from my end on it. It's just, listen, at the end of the day, if I can keep the agency moving forward for another 4 years and keep supporting the men and women in this community, I want to do it. Because if not, I look back, retired, and go, I didn't take that step. So, but thanks for the question.
One last question
Yes, sir.
for me. You mentioned the healthcare initiative when you're on the intake of incarcerated
Yes.
people. Can you give us 1 or 2 more details? I think you said something like you're going to be monitoring them more closely. Any more details you can share about at this time about what you're going to change?
Yeah, Yeah, there's just a little bit, there's some electronic devices out there, and it's nothing, it's nothing from like a health perspective, like I know everything about you. Monitoring heart rate, respiration rate, just things that if there looks like there's going to be a medical emergency on this person, it will notify CHS as well as our detention officers, detention staff members, to maybe, hey, we need to go check on this inmate. Or get the camera over there, send somebody over. Obviously, we don't necessarily have the most healthiest population sometimes entering into our jail facilities. We want an extra layer to make sure that they're provided the level of care and response that's needed, and this might help us with extra eyes.
So they're like wearing something, or?
That's one of the technologies. I think there's a couple different ones. With a procurement process, there's other things we need to do, so. One last one here for you.
Sure. Will Stephanie Molina be the highest-ranking woman in MCSO history?
Not in history. We had Jadelle Rowe, who was chief deputy for a short period of time, I think early in the Arpaio era, but she will be the second one, and I will say the first Hispanic female chief deputy in the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, and look forward to her helping lead. So, with that, I've got some other commitments. So again, I want to thank you all for your patience, number one, and waiting so long, and the good questions. So I appreciate it.